All right. Are you guys ready to talk about Dave Chappelle again?
Sure.
Yeah,
we have to be. So let's.
You have to do it. It's news is news, or at least pop culture news is pop culture news. Dave Chappelle's assailant says he was triggered by offensive jokes. Basically, the point of this article, and I read the New York Post interview they did with him, boiled down to like, I was upset at stuff he said, so violence, I guess.
This guy seems like he is some kind of performance artist, because like, who unironically uses the word triggering in 2022? This guy I feel like he might be on like Dave Chappelle's side almost. Like, is he just faking this whole thing?
I don't mean to mansplain, but I think I got an answer to your question. Guys that non-ironically use bayonets.
That type of guy.
I still can't figure out, like, if the point of the knife was to get it past security, why bring it with a fake gun?
I thought that the point of the replica gun was just to scare Dave Chappelle.
That's what it was?
Yeah,
okay,
to just make him feel like he was about to die.
So it says in an exclusive Jailhouse interview, Isaiah Lee told the Post that Chappelle should be more sensitive when it comes to the jokes he cracks. When they say that, what they mean is you can't tell jokes at all.
Joke or die.
Or else we're gonna stab you. Okay.
There is no actual. There will be there will be no such thing as jokes, because when they say that you should be more sensitive or you should be careful what kind of jokes you tell, there is no distinction there. They just mean all jokes are going to be unacceptable. So it says, I identify as bisexual and I wanted him to know what he said was triggering. So I can't believe I have to make this known, but what that means is that he needed him to know. So he used a weapon that he brought in with him. That doesn't make any... Can somebody help me out here? I'm losing my mind here.
I can't, Brett. It all checks out. Like, what's wrong? Like,
is he claiming that this was not premeditated?
Well, that's the thing. He says
really?
He says that later. Yeah, he says later on down there. He says he was expecting to have a good time that night. We'll get there. So it says, I identify as bisexual, and I wanted him to know that what he said was triggering. Lee said Saturday at the Twin Towers.
You accomplished that.
He was and says, I wanted him to know that next time he should consider the first running his material by people it could affect. So again, remember when I talk about like joke by committee or writing by committee? They want actual committee approval over everything you do.
You know who this reminds me of?
Who?
Anita Sarkeesian.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know.
I can't believe
it's been so long since I heard that name.
The threats can stop.
I can't believe
if you hire me.
Yep. Every time a new game's coming out, sure, it would be a shame if your game got brigaded by articles that speak negatively of its content.
Ancient history.
Do you feel in control?
You may want to hire me to make sure that nobody comes and says naughty things or mean things about your video game.
Woke mafia.
It says, I wanted him to know that next time he should consider running his material by people it could affect. Lee said he expected to have, quote, a good time at the May 3rd Netflix as a joke show, but he grew angry and frustrated as Chappelle joked about his prior controversies with the LGBTQ community as well as homelessness. So that might have been even more triggering to him, because remember, there was a thing prior about how he said like that gentrification and his mom being displaced from her area was a big issue for her. So perhaps that plays a role in this here.
I just feel this was like so clearly premeditated, and he now has a lawyer telling him what to say, so he's finally explaining himself.
I always bring a replica gun with a knife attached to it to things I'm going to expect to have a good time at.
Yeah, like what? I mean, no, not to say like you shouldn't be able to like carry a weapon to protect yourself, but this was so clearly planned. A planned assassination attempt.
And it wasn't it's not like he had the knife in his pocket. It was a knife like taped to a gun that was fake. That's not, you don't bring that in there for fun. You bring that in there because you plan to use it on something.
My favorite thing is that he did it for a consulting job.
What do you mean?
He was like, you know, like I just wanted to do it so he'd know and consult with people that this joke's offense, you know.
There are people whose whole job it is to inform people who make like Netflix originals on ways that their series or movie could possibly offend certain protected groups.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
There are people
being
paid like $80K a year to talk about what triggers them.
Yep. sensitivity readers are cultural
It's a
sensitivity
thing.
readers.
Yeah.
People who are paid money to like this could offend this group. This could offend this group.
I
Like,
swear those people and intimacy coordinators could like vanish off the face of the planet one day like a rapture and no one would even notice.
not a clue.
I
Nope.
can't wait for us to
You'd
have
just be like, wait, why is TV like so much better all of a sudden?
Yep.
I feel like we should have an intimacy coordinator in our sound checks.
Yeah, that would help.
Deep take.
When we do sound checks now, Dane dryly reads rap lyrics to me in various tones and levels.
Phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. He says, "I'm also a single dad, and my son is 5." Said Lee, 23, who at one point was homeless himself. It's a struggle, and I wanted Dave to know it's not a joke. He wanted him to know it's not a joke by trying to stab him. Like I feel like I should be telling jokes here, but there are no jokes.
Not
to tell.
only is
It's
it a joke, but
ridiculous.
you're making the joke funnier by being mad about it.
He said his breaking point came when another comedian in the show's lineup made a crude joke about pedophilia, which Lee said dredged up memories of his own molestation as a teen. Like, if you've had these,
What?
if you've gone through these traumatic things, if you've been homeless, all these and you have a very serious existence and you have a hard time with humor. Look, I understand that, but the idea is that as a citizen, as a person with your own, you're responsible for your own actions. It's your job to not put yourself into a situation where you're going to react violently to someone who is basically just doing his job. I understand that you may not like what he has to say, but some amount of personal responsibility and account has to be taken here.
Or does it?
Well,
Or does it?
Well, we'll have to see because
Guess we'll never know, huh?
We'll never.
I mean, it's sad because this person is clearly just so internally troubled and
Very
disconnected
conflicted.
from reality that he needed some kind of scapegoat, something to attack that would make sense of how much hardship he's likely gone through. And
remember, he has a past of really liking Chappelle.
now
making
that's
music
been
about him.
exploited by the snark crowd and the silence is violence crowd to give this person a delusion that what he did was okay.
So you have to be both silent and speak. You have to do both at the same time.
You cannot win.
You can't actually win. You have to do both.
Guys, my favorite person in the whole world is here.
Who's that?
Waffle Sensei.
We love
He
you, Waffle
is-
Sensei.
Oh, hello, Waffle Sensei.
Yes.
Can we just tell him that waffles suck and pancakes and French toast are better?
French toast is better than waffles, but waffles are better than pancakes. Sorry.
You're wrong, but that's fine.
I'm a French toast person.
I mean,
French
French
toast
toasts are the
above
best.
all?
Right.
Then waffles, then pancakes.
Then pancakes, then waffles.
Waffles.
I make no.
You are the
You
tiebreaker.
need to make a Brett. You need to make a
I
choice.
feel like
Waffles
I'm
or pancakes now.
pancakes.
Damn it!
sorry. That's
This is a sexist attack.
This is the
No.
hard hitting podcasting people have been looking for, is these types of conversations where we cover the real topics.
Thanks, Waffles Sensei. You
yes.
just divided this
Anyway,
show.
Waffles, I bet you didn't think I'd acknowledge you, but I had to destroy you.
Dave will always acknowledge you. So
He's my best friend. He's my lover. He's a waffle, and he's a sensei.
And Dave, John Mulaney also had his own thing with Dave, and that was surprising to both you and me, because he's normally like good guy Greg.
Right. He, as I said earlier, which puzzled you greatly, he is a victim of the small beanification of male comedians, which basically just means he is a sweet little cinnamon roll who can do no wrong in the eyes of girls 18 to 24.
That seems almost impossible to do in comedy and actually be funny.
Cinnamon rolls also better than waffles.
Well, yeah.
Okay, well, fine.
We're still talking about
I'm
breakfast
always
foods.
talking about that, dude. At some point, I'm going to derail the conversation to Halo. By
Someone
the way,
else also
spoilers.
said Brett the Frittata.
Yes, that is me. Okay. So John Mulaney,
Thank you.
thank you. It says John
Salted by
Mulaney.
We could not be more disjointed right now.
We are we're working on it, guys. We love you for sticking with us today. Like the vibe has been all over the place, and we're
But I
figuring it
love
out.
it.
And we're figuring it out as we go. So it says a lot of people felt ambushed by Dave's presence. He opened for John Mulaney. It says, let me see. Yep, disjointed. Especially since he allegedly went on to tell what they characterize as transphobic and homophobic jokes. One thing Chappelle needs to be careful about is he needs to not pigeonhole himself as like a dude who just talks about this.
But he's kind of doing that. And like, unfortunately, it's working because people are so thirsty and like deprived of actually subversive comedy.
Yeah.
That this is what they'll laugh at. And I just don't find it compelling at all. Like, I don't think Dave Chappelle's funny.
He is funny.
I love Chappelle. I was
Maybe
actually,
I haven't given him a fair shake, but like, I don't even think stand-up comedy as a whole is in a good state right now.
Well, no, and I mean, in an era where you have to be very, very careful, otherwise somebody will attack you. Thank you. You have to be very careful if somebody will attack you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you tell jokes and not have to worry about? Maybe they're just wearing flak jackets and bulletproof clothing,
I'm sorry, their bodyguard gets me every time.
Where it says you think it's distracting. So it's like so it says John Mulaney is a piece of S for not giving a single F about the many trans members of his audience that had to sit through Chappelle's unnecessary transphobic tirades that he called jokes. Can trans people effing breathe? To everyone that felt unsafe and laughed at. In today's society, you either can joke about everybody or you can joke about nobody. You have to make a distinction. And there has to be a point where we decide that, yes, you can be laughed at. If I can be laughed at for what I look like, which is perfectly fine, if you can be laughed at for what you look like or who you are, and that's perfectly fine, then everyone needs to accept that we're going to live in a world where you're not going to be allowed to just accept or expect to be left alone all the time, that you're never going to be the subject of some type of joke or the butt end of something like that. It's going to happen, and you have to learn to accept it.
Some of the most beautiful friendships form from mockery.
Like what?
And it's something
like
these
ours.
people will,
If you guys actually knew like how like ruthless we are like to each other, but like when the cameras are not rolling, it would be 100 times worse, and we would all be in very deep trouble. But that is,
But in the new framework where every joke has to be categorized as punching up or punching down, the only thing that matters is the perceived like power level of the person telling the joke or the person who's the butt of the joke. You can't take any joke at its face value then.
And sometimes you can miss the mark with a friend and like say something in a joke and actually offend them. And like that's part of life too, like you can't.
But that's also a personal interaction, and when you're doing stand-up, that's to millions of people,
right?
And remember that when they tell you to apologize, it's okay to apologize to a person. You should never apologize to large groups. Right. You weren't intending to affect the whole group, obviously. But this is what you just mentioned is something I want to talk about, which is the idea of punching up and punching down. Do you think that there's a place for that? Like, I don't like that concept. I don't like the idea that you have to be jailed up or down as to whether you can, because that feels like where society is going, where you have to stay in your lane all the time. You're not allowed to do anything outside of your specific life experience. And I don't think that's a recipe for an actual life worth living.
I think that framework makes a lot more sense when you're talking about a personal interaction, like one-on-one people joking with each other. Maybe you can use that language of like punching up or punching down in jokes like that. But when it's a stand-up comedian whose entire profession is to make people laugh, and it's the imbalance of him being one person and his audience being literally millions of people, people who are in the room and outside of the room, you can't apply the same principle.
No, it doesn't work.
By the way, just being literal, is it marginalized that you're like set off to the margins and no one talks about you?
I don't. That's a very interesting.
I mean,
question,
that is literally what the word means.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
you are put into the margin.
Correct. So this doesn't. If someone makes a lighthearted joke about you, it doesn't seem like you're being marginalized. It seems like the exact opposite.
Seems like you're being included
brought
and
into
brought
the
in.
fold.
Yeah.
As people, as equal partners that can be mocked in a moment of levity.
Yep, it's kind of seems like it seems like you infantilize people by pretending like the rules wouldn't apply to them.
This just shows like
Clip that, me.
Yeah.
people are so just socially stunted now. They just don't understand this. Like, do any of these people have like personal friend groups where they joke around with each other, or is it all just like?
Take a wild guess, babe. What do you think?
I imagine a lot of these people.
I guess not.
I imagine
But, like,
a lot of them live exclusively online.
if they do have a real friend group,
Yeah.
they're all like people who still use Tumblr in this day and age and call themselves small beans and cinnamon rolls.
That's not adulthood though. I'm sorry. It's not.
I know.
It's not.
It's just like
I think you can make friends online though. Like
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they don't have real world experience actually talking and interacting with people in the same way that, or at least
they don't have to negotiate their personalities with other personalities and backgrounds.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
they don't understand what a joke is. It's crazy to me.
Also, I mean, I hate to use this as an excuse, but a lot of people were locked in their homes for a long time for some reason, you know, and like when you come off that and start talking to people again, it's like, whoa, it's kind of difficult. I know my first interaction with people for a year was meeting the Timcast staff, and let me tell you, that was a wild ride.
I'm sure. You just kind of have to.
Now
get
you're
used to it.
socially stunted, just in a different way.
Yeah, I mean,
Socially stunted the other direction now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there? Do you think that Chappelle owes anyone an apology?
hell no, dude. Hell no. I know that question's not for me, but I'll answer you anyway. No.
No.
Of course not.
It's barely even a question because it's just like, we're normal and we know this.
So what do we do? So what do we do in this situation? Does he? I think the best
he's
thing.
still making bank, and if anything, this just helped his publicity anyway. I'm sure. Thank you. The people managing him are very happy about this because it just shows, that he's still making a splash.
I still think the best thing he could do would be to diversify his comedy and not pigeonhole himself as the guy who just criticized. Even that's what's happening to Ricky Gervais. He's the anti-cancel culture guy.
Literally, I saw the tweet yesterday that was like, then I put the bloody Bible in the bloody fiction section of me Barnes and Noble. That's literally Ricky Gervais.
Canceling the uncancelable.
Which is why I think he's annoying. I think if you're one-dimensional in either direction, I don't find that funny.
The best thing you could do would be to diversify. The beauty should be that you can make fun of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Burr used to do a fairly good job of being able to joke about just about everybody and do it in a way that was tastefully done. What, you don't agree?
No, I'm just getting money.
Dane is collecting his spoils from today's episode. He's very
Getting
enjoyable
your
about
fair
that.
share.
Yep. Were there super chats?
Yes, Queen.
Yes, there were. Yesh said, "Oop,
Oh,
just
yes.
jumped down.
Another one of my favorite children.
Just let Mary TikTok. This is what I've been saying.
That's what we've been saying, Mary.
Give me my free speech back." Schmack95 said, "Okay, so I'm pretty sure the knife on the gun is to split the bullet in half, basically getting 2 shots out of 1. This guy is dangerous."
Oh, that's terrifying.
Okay.
That's terrifying. I thought it was like...
I thought it was a replica gun.
So I thought it was a replica gun and the knife was taped to the side of it.
Thank you. Waffles Sensei says waffles are better. That's what Dave's mom makes me for breakfast.
My mom's an angel, Waffle Sensei. She'd never make pancakes.
Dude.
You must have met my stepmom.
If you want an example of humor where it's where you think some of these things could go wrong, me and Nick have basically he made a your mom joke to me right after he had just found out that my mom had passed a couple of years ago, and he didn't think about it, so he makes the joke and then he stops for a few minutes and he goes, "Oh, crap." And I was I laughed anyway. I'm dude, because I know that he didn't mean anything by it. So now that's a thing where he makes those jokes and I know that he's making those jokes because but you know what I'm saying? That's why on a personal level, that's different.
Called human interaction, folks.
That's just what happened to
What a
Waffle
concept.
Sensei, my dearly departed mother. Rest in peace. When I was 9. So bet you feel like a waffle now, don't you?
Oh no! Now we're gonna get another groveling apology.
Bet you feel like someone with ridges and holes
I don't know what that means.
and syrup to fill
A
your
waffle.
emptiness. I mean, listen, me and Waffles are tight. We've been posting on the internet for a month now.
Next.
Nathan
Anyway.
Koss says our culture has replaced traditional religion with the religion of the self. When you think of yourself as the end-all be-all and someone slights you, that someone is attacked with the religious zeal of old.
Yeah.
Very true.
And also a lot of it is they use that as an excuse to when they talk about who's the people are being harmed, and what they always mention is when Dave Chappelle makes jokes at the expense of a group, and then they say but this group is so and so more times more likely to experience this. This group is more likely to experience violence. This group is more likely to experience prejudice. It's that doesn't make the joke any less valid. Like that's an awful stat. That's awful, but that does not mean that the humor does not still have a place in the society. It just means that both can be true. That your joke, which is not always a joke, a lot of times it's just a unique. Thank you.
Thanks.
A lot of time it's a unique observation on society told with a level of grit and a level of callousness that doesn't always have to feel nice, but it's not always, jokes are not always supposed to be the best feeling in the world. They're supposed to remind you of just how good and how bad society can be at a time. And you need that. But the thing is, you need perspective to be able to appreciate that. And a lot of people don't have that perspective anymore.
Sometimes we mock what we love too,
In what way?
Let's say
it's just a level of familiarity that you have with someone that allows you to do that.
Right, like sometimes you have a friend that's particularly effervescent compared to your
Ooh, nice use of that word. Fantastic.
I have a master's degree, I'll have sometimes you have a friend, that's particularly effervescent compared to your other friends, and like you make note of it. It's like, oh, well, so-and-so is happy today because they are,
Yeah.
And you're mocking it, but you're just bringing levity to it,
Yeah.
That's what we like about you in a way.
I miss the ability to joke around. I really do. I mean, it's like...
Well, you have that here, at least. Just not on the internet.
And Ricky Gervais is right about that. He says, like, you can still do it. You just have to be willing to,
You have to face the consequences. Like, stand for what you said.
Yep.
Stop apologizing.
Exactly. Next, there was more. There had to be more.
Yes, there were. In terms of comedy, Hava Owen says, in terms of comedy, I think everyone is fair game as long as it's a good bit or riff, like Red Bar or Nick Mullen.
Nick Mullen, legend.
One thing that's funny about that is like maybe it's just that the comedy's bad. Like a lot of it is like I was listening to a lot of like Patrice O'Neill this weekend, and it just reminds me how good comedy can be when it's done right. But there just isn't a lot of. I mean, granted, I'm not going out of my way looking up Netflix specials, but or comedy sets. But just in general, when it's done right, it tends to hit better, and there's just less of that now.
There's just so many less people who are willing to speak, from their souls and who they are.
Real human beings.
There's so many Chandler from Friends going around, There's so many Monicas and Rachels and like people. They're like people simulacra. There's very rare individuals that you're like, man, you're a gem. I love you.
Have you ever seen the videos of Friends without the laugh track?
Oh my God.
Terrifying.
Oh, I have,
horrifying.
Yeah.
It's so
and
terrifying.
that kind of has to like make you applaud them for acting so well in those pauses. It's so weird.
Like it's a whole skill set in and of itself to be able to do that. I could never do that.
I saw it. It's all them just going like, hey,
pause.
No way. It's okay, dude.
We have a couple more. Hava Owens says, edgy comedy is sometimes the best.
I think
so true, but not always.
Is there an example you can give of less edgy comedy that you think is really good?
The Mitch Hedberg, was he?
I don't know how to think of things that aren't memes.
Yeah, that's me. I mean, memetics is really how we get things across in society now.
You're like internet Bane. I was born in it.
Yeah.
Memetics is really there's a couple. I wish I could. It was like somebody reading off the alphabet, and they talk about how you read the first few letters really slowly, like A, B, C, D, and then it groups E, D, F, G all really close together, and it's like. To show you how fast it's him. That's the power of memetics, like the ability to convey a message with very little information. And that's why I think the humor is so much more resonant these days but bringing memes to life. Like basically memes now are just what Chappelle used to be for us back in the day, which is like now you read memes to each other. Back in the day, people just shouted out like Chappelle quotes to one another if they wanted to talk about stuff that was funny.
Dude, to your point, no, people don't even have like the bravery to make a joke anymore. It's always like, is it just me or is blah blah blah? Am I right?
Has anyone else thought blah blah blah? Like, the tone of it is so despicable.
And that's the people that like they talk as if they're on Twitter all the time.
Yes.
Like that's not how people in the real world talk. It's a thing.
Dude, and I'm so sorry. You're trying to.
Oh, go ahead. Well, you had one more.
We did.
Yes.
Dooku said we stand. Certain word, Mary. I don't know if I want to say that word on YouTube.
You know what?
We'll leave it off.
Thanks for standing.
Thank you.
I guess.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.